Hi beautiful souls, it's Tan back here again today with you on this Astrology, Human Design and Gene Keys channel with Santa Claus is coming to town. Another video. And today we're going to be looking at compatibility and relationships in human design and how to use human design for the purpose of compatibility and relationships. So there is something called a connection chart in human design, and that is what you would mainly use when you're looking for compatibility and relationships in human design. And so if you're wondering how to get a connection chart in human design, I think there might be some apps out there that can do that for you, but I generally use geneticmatrix.com, but then again, I'm a member of geneticmatrix.com, so I can go into some of the deeper things they have there and cook up a connection chart. But if you're not a member of Genetic Matrix, then maybe you can't get a connection chart there. But it's not like astrology, where it's very hard to determine the connection between two people without looking at the actual synastry and composite. You can kind of make it through and understanding the connections between two people in human design, even if you don't have a connection chart. If that kind of makes sense. So if you have two people's human design charts in front of you, you can basically just kind of look and see what their connections are going to be like. And I hope that this video will help you to do that, whether you have or you don't have that connection chart. And I also feel like I should talk about this a little bit, that human design and astrology, when it comes to looking at compatibility and relationships, are very different. And for me personally, I like to use astrology, synastry charts, and composite charts much more than using human design connection charts to look for compatibility between two people, because human design is very much an energetic exchange. It shows you an energetic exchange between two people, and that's the thing we have to keep into consideration here, is that when we're looking at relationships, energetic exchanges between two people is not everything. There's a lot more complexities and intricacies in relationships than just, this is my natural energy, this is your natural energy, do we complement each other, which is very good for using human design to get a look at. I'm going to separate this video into two parts. So the first part is going to be looking at the connection charts of human design for the purpose of attraction, to see if two people are going to be drawn to each other and how will they be drawn to each other. And for the second part of this video, I'm going to be looking at how you can use the human design connection charts for the purpose of relating, to getting on with the actual relationship buildings and how that happens. So that's very different from attraction, right? Okay. So the first thing that you want to look at when you want to see the attraction style or relating between two people is that you want to look at the defined and undefined centers of the two body graphs that you have in front of you. The more differences the two people have in terms of their defined and undefined centers, the more they're going to be drawn to each other, especially the sacral and the solar plexus. So if one person has a defined sacral, another person has an undefined sacral, this is sort of very attractive to both people. So this can be said that and manifesting generators tend to be very much pulled and drawn towards projectors and manifestors and reflectors, because there's a sacral difference there. The sacral represents your life force energy, your workforce, life force energy, but it also represents your sexuality. So that's where that's kind of coming in there. And the solar plexus can do the same. If one person has an undefined solar plexus, another person has a defined solar plexus, that can be very attractive. And any of the other centers, but the main ones are the sacral and the solar plexus. Now, you can have two people with undefined sacrals that come together, and in the way they connect, they have a defined sacral. And that would also be very attractive as well. And that is when you may need the human design connection chart to help you if you're not familiar with human design. But if you are familiar with human design, the way that, when two people have undefined centers and they come together and that center becomes defined, the way that that happens is because there is people with two hanging gates combined together in an electromagnetic channel, and it makes it defined. So if one person had gate 59 in their undefined sacral, and another person has gate 6 in their undefined solar plexus, or defined solar plexus, but their sacral is also undefined, and they come together and they will form that connection of the 59-6, making both people now have a defined sacral. That's very, very attractive and very juicy as well. So that's the first thing you want to look at. The second thing that you want to look at in terms of attraction is your profiles. So people who have the same profile with another person, there tends to be what is called resonance in human design, and that means that they go about life in a very similar way. There's a resonance, almost like we're on the same page with how we want to conduct our lives. Now, you don't have to always, have a resonance of line 1 with line 1, because line 1 is the baseline, so that can also go well with line 4. So 1 and 4 have a sort of good energy together, understanding energy together. Line 2 and line 5 also have good energy together. And line 3 and line 6 also have good energy together. And of course, line 1 and line 1, line 2 and line 2, line 3 and line 3, line 4 and line 4, line 5 and line 5, and line 6 and line 6. That also goes well together as well. The next thing you want to look at when you're wanting to see attraction is your incarnation cross and the overlays of your incarnation cross. So this is very attractive if two people are on the same incarnation cross, but they have reversed orders. Does that kind of make sense? So they're born on the same incarnation cross, but they have a different order in where their gates are positioned in the planets. That still brings quite an attraction, because two people are going to be immediately on the same page in terms of what they want to pursue in this life, and having a really good understanding of that for each other. But that also brings some friction, because depending on how evolved the two people are, there can be this attraction, because although they are on the same page in terms of their life purpose, they're bringing to each other a bit of something different, which is very juicy, into kind of wanting to add as a missing component to someone's life, if that makes sense there. And the next thing you want to look at, this is a very common thing that you'll see said almost everywhere, almost immediately when you're looking at human design compatibilities, and I think it is highly overrated. I think that a lot of websites and people who talk about compatibility in human design jump right ahead and talk about this particular point of attraction and skip everything else that I've mentioned so far. And so this thing that I want to talk about now is the electromagnetic channels. So an electromagnetic channel happens when one person has one gate of a particular channel and another person has the other gate of that particular channel. So they're both hanging gates in their own individual human design body graphs, but they come together and they make the full channel. So for example, if someone had gate 35 in their individual natal chart without 36, and then another person has gate 36 without the 35, they're in a relationship, they're gonna have that 35-36 channel formed, and that is going to be very attractive to both people. So when you're looking at electromagnetic channels, it depends a lot as well on which planets are those gates in. So if those gates are in more generational planets or not very sexual planets, like it's Mercury or it's Saturn, that might not be very attractive or may not do much for both people. However, if someone is kind of evolved in their Saturn, very attractive. But if they're not evolved in their Saturn, not so attractive. But if it's like Mars or Venus or Moon even, then we can have something that's going to be more on the side of attraction, sexual attraction coming in, if that kind of makes sense. Now, the other thing you have to consider about these electromagnetic channels is that they are pure attraction. And so I've made a video on my channel to talk about attraction. Some time ago, I'll leave a link up above in the description box below, that attraction is not love. Attraction is when you see somebody who has something that you don't have and you want to get something from them. So attraction has this theme of feeling incomplete and unfulfilled within yourself, and then using another person to feel whole and complete. So if you have a hanging gate 35, you want that 36 so badly that you will use another person for their 36 energy so that you can feel complete and whole, and having a 35-36 channel. There's an element of selfishness and an element of not yet fully healed from some of the conditioning that you have in your body that causes attraction. Nothing wrong with that. It's just part of being human. But we have to keep in mind that that is not love. That is the human experience. And it's part of just being human to get into the messy habits of relating, because attraction channels over time can also cause repulsion and can cause two people to feel very disgusted with each other, depending on their level of maturity and evolution, and how they're using that channel, the electromagnetic connection that they're having as well. Because if you think about it, if somebody has a 35 without a 36, right, that person is hungry for experience in life. They're hungry for serotonin. They're looking for love and the spice of life and adventure. Somebody has the 36 there. They are constantly falling into turbulence and crisis in their life, and this is emotional stuff. This is like love triangles and love affairs, and they come together. Most likely, if you have this electromagnetic connection, there can be a bit of a love affair energy going on there that over time can bring a certain amount of guilt and shame, because gate 36 has this higher energy of compassion and humanity, and to really be fully compassionate and having that sense of humanity, it comes with having to accept shame and guilt within yourself and within others. And so it can cause a certain amount of resentments in that kind of a relationship, because you're coming into this almost affair-like or turbulent crisis meeting, and the level of resentment that builds up in a relationship is really what kills a relationship. And we can have that with electromagnetic channels, if that made sense there. Okay, so now we're moving on to the relating phase of this video. So with regards to the relating phase, the relationship building phase of this, using human design to do that, we're going to be looking at some of the things that are going to be similar. So you can look at the different defined and undefined centers, just like I mentioned in the attraction phase. You can be looking at profiles and resonance, just like I mentioned in the attraction phase. You can be looking at the incarnation cross, just like I mentioned in the attraction phase. And there's also something that you may want to consider here is what is called a connection theme. A connection theme is not necessarily attraction. It shows up later when you are having to connect and relate to another person. So a connection theme is, when you put the two body graphs together and you have a new body graph. And in that new body graph, you want to be able to see how many centers in that new body graph is defined and how many centers is left undefined. So if all of the centers becomes defined when you have a new human design body graph, a connection chart, that is what is called 9 to 0, because there's 9 centers. So 9 to 0, nowhere to go. And what that means is that when the two people are together, they complete each other in a way that is just final. So it can feel like they don't need anybody else in the world. And at the beginning of a relationship, it can feel like we're just in our own world. But over time, it can feel a little bit suffocating, because outside external influences can't penetrate into this relationship. So advice that is being given about the relationship, friends and families that want to come in and have something to do with this couple, they just can't come in at all. They just feel like they're not included. And at first the couple feels like this is special, but then over time they begin to feel like they need other people now. They're kind of in this stagnant, almost suffocating relationship, and it can be kind of boring. And so that's why when you have the 9 to 0, nowhere to go, you want to give each other enough space and make sure that you understand when you're giving each other enough space in the relationship. Then we can also have another connection theme, 8 to 1, have some fun. So 8 centers are defined, 1 center is left undefined. So this couple, when they have this, are going to be wanting to explore that undefined channel. And most likely they're going to be exploring it together. So there can be this sense of like, depending on which center is open, partnership or teamwork into navigating in the real world, in the external world, how this particular undefined center is going to operate in the real world. So if you're coming together and you have one center undefined and that center is the crown center, for example, then you're both going to be inspired by life. You want to pull each other into different kinds of maybe the occult, the mystics, spiritual things. Maybe it's your own past and things that are, you know, outside of yourself, that are more mystical, that you can enjoy figuring out together. The next connection theme we have is 7 to 2, work to do. So it's similar here with 7 to 2, is that there's 2 centers that are undefined, and both people want to explore these 2 undefined centers, but because there's 2 centers, they can kind of find themselves separated because they're exploring different things. So if the crown center is undefined, and let's say the spleen is also undefined, you may find that one person is involved in the outside world getting inspiration, but the other person is in the, you know, going out in the outside world and trying to be healthy. And so it can cause a bit of separation because you can have 2 separate lives almost. Now, you can work together and communicate with each other and schedule and plan when you can explore the crown together and when you can explore the spleen together, and when you can do it separated, so that you're not feeling completely separated from each other, that there's still something in common there. The next connection theme we have is 6 to 3, better to be free. So this is when there's 3 undefined centers, and this is just a little bit too much. It almost feels like you're not completing each other at all. There's just nothing there. You come together, it's fun, but then we gotta go our own way, kind of. And then the last connection theme we can have, I think, I'm not sure there's more in this, but this one is 5 to 4, not a relationship anymore. So this is not even attractive in the first place. It can kind of almost feel like we come together and we always need people around us to feel complete, to feel stable. Just the 2 of us is never enough. It can be a bit of that kind of an energy. Okay, so now let's look at the next thing that we want to look at to see how 2 people can relate to each other in a human design connection chart. Let's look at a channel that is called a compromise channel. So in the attraction phase, we have the electromagnetic channels that are important. In the relating phase, I think a compromise channel is very, very important to have. And the name speaks for itself, compromise. And compromise is very, very important in any kind of relationship, especially in a long-term romantic relationship. We want to know how to compromise with each other. So a compromise channel happens when one person has the whole channel and another person has one hanging gate from that channel. So in a compromise channel, the person who has the whole channel uses the energy of that particular area of life, of their body, very differently from the person who has it hanging. So this is going to depend on the channel. And in the example that I've given, if somebody has a 23-43, they are going to have insight, their own individual mind, their own way of thinking, their own way of conceptualizing that it's maybe a little bit odd or weird or ahead of their time, and they're going to want to bring it out into their 23, and they're going to want to communicate that. And they may want to communicate that to their partner and have that feedback coming in. But if their partner has only the 43, that person with the 43-23 is not going to be able to get the kind of feedback or the kind of conversation that they would like to have, because the person who has only the 43 without the 23 can have all these amazing insights and a very different way of thinking and an ability to think individually, but they don't really want to talk about it, and they don't know how to talk about it. And they can understand the 43-23 and the way that they want to share and communicate their thoughts in their mind, but they don't want to do that for themselves. And so this is where the compromise comes in. The person who has the 43-23 is going to have to understand that they're not going to be able to get the kind of conversation that they're looking for from the partner who has only the 43. And the partner with the 43s also going to have to understand that they can maybe be a good listener and listen to their partner with the 23-43 without that stubborn deafness, which is a shadow of gate 43. So, actively choosing to not listen and to always filter what their partner's saying rather than having open listening. So that is something that the two people are going to have to be negotiating, working with, trying to understand with each other, compromising with each other. And compromise in a relationship can bring a lot of awareness, mindfulness, an ability to negotiate, a lot of compassion, which is really, really important in a relationship long term. So the next thing we want to be looking at is what is called a dominance channel. So a dominance channel is when one person has the whole of a particular channel and the other person doesn't have any of it. So the person who has the whole channel is bringing something new into the life of the person who doesn't have any part of that channel, no gates there. So this means one person may have the 23-43. The other person doesn't have the 23 and doesn't have the 43. So they're receiving this new 23-43 energy from their partner. It's completely new. It's a whole new world. So what this can bring is a lot of learning and growth in a relationship, specifically for the person who doesn't have that channel, to be able to learn a lot from their partner who has the whole channel. And guys, growth in a relationship is very, very important. A dominance channel is what makes it seem like a relationship is constantly evolving. And for the person who has the whole channel, if they are the kind of person who, let's say they have some kind of more leadership qualities about them, they're a bit macho, they would love it because they get to be the leader. That channel that is dominating the other person, they get to lead, they get to be a teacher, you can say. And some people really like that. Some people like to be a bit of a teacher in their relationship. So we can have a good teaching, learning, teacher-student kind of thing happening as well. And ultimately, it leads to a lot of acknowledgement in a relationship and a lot of respect in a relationship as well. So that was it, I guess, for the various different aspects of human design connection charts and what to look for there. Now, there are a couple things that I think is missing in human design connection charts. For example, what if two people have, for example, it doesn't really show how people are connecting when there is no channel formed, if that makes sense. So, for example, if one person has Mercury, let's say in gate 17, Aries Mercury, another person has Mercury in gate 26, it's Sagittarius Mercury, right? It doesn't say, see how human design doesn't connect that. It doesn't tell us how would that person's Mercury activate or communicate or interact with the other person's Mercury. Just because they're not forming a channel doesn't mean that they're not going to interact at all. So I feel like that is missing from a human design connection chart, which could be very important, and that's why I like to use astrology more, because when you look at synastry and composite charts in astrology, almost all the planets are going to be activated somehow. Even if they're not making an aspect, they're going to be falling into a house, another person's house in their natal chart, and that's going to tell you something. So it feels like still that there's something missing, like it's not totally whole and complete when you look at human design connection charts. And I also feel like it doesn't really quite get into things like looking at two people's vision for life. What are their goals for life? Are their goals going to align with each other? Is their lifestyle going to align with each other? That kind of thing, which somebody does not just energetically, but they consciously do, and they evolve and grow over time into developing a certain lifestyle or a goal for life that cannot be seen in human design. That can definitely be seen in astrology, synastry, and composite charts. That's why that's definitely more useful than in the human design, because one of the deal breakers in a relationship is when you have a conflicting vision for your life with another person, when your life goals are completely different. One person wants to have kids, another person doesn't. Different life goals. And human design doesn't really tell you that, although there are channels that can tell you if you're physically made to have kids, like the 59.6 channel or the 2750 channel of mating, reproduction, and caretaking. But, you know, people can want to have children for other reasons that is not just because it's in their energy, right? And human design doesn't tell you that. Whereas astrology can kind of tell you if there are going to be conflicting visions for life and life goals or not. So that's just going to be my last summary and my last take on this. I hope you guys like this video. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up. And in the comments below, share anything that you want to share with us today. Have you looked at the human design connection charts with you and another person, and what's been popping up there for you guys? And I do have a second YouTube channel. Please also check that out. It is an art channel, and I have a second website as well. Also check that out. Links up above and in the description box below. I hope to see you guys there. That's it for today, beautiful souls. Have a beautiful Christmassy day. Bye.